This is The Law Show on CL 650. Now back to the show.
Welcome back. Sterling Fox joined in studio by Joe Murphy and Derek Ma from MurphyBattista LLP, a Vancouver family personal injury law firm. We're talking disability insurance and its effect on families and individuals. Derek mentioned punitive damages a few minutes ago, Joe. A provision the court has to punish, if you will, an insurance company for not doing what it should have done rightfully in the first place. Is that a tool the courts use frequently? And have you ever had a successful award of punitive damages in any of your cases?
The courts can use punitive damages as a tool, and the sole purpose is to punish the wrongdoer.
Right.
There's only a handful of cases that I'm aware of in Canada where on an insurance claim the courts have ordered punitive damages. A recent Saskatchewan case awarded punitive damages in the millions against a disability insurer that over the course of 8 or 9 years had just treated a fellow so badly. It's just awful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But punitive damages in Canada are rare, and the amounts awarded are low. If you go to trial and you get punitive damages, it's likely $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000. So it's just not something that is commonly done, but it's available.
And is the award, is the amount, whatever the amount, Joe, is that payable to the injured person then?
Yes.
On
yes.
top of whatever medical
Yes.
care award takes place?
Whatever their judgments for, the punitive damages is designed to punish the defendant, but it's awarded to the plaintiff.
Okay. Interesting stuff.
There was a case many years ago where the Church of Scientology slandered a lawyer, and the punitive damage award was $1 million, and that went right through to the Supreme Court of Canada, and at each level they said, this is okay. The reality is the actions of insurance companies that I've seen are far worse than someone slandering a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
but the courts are just really reluctant to open that door in terms of making awards more than a few $1,000s.
Interesting. Derek, in British Columbia, we have a kind of a two-tier system almost in some workplaces. Dwayne and I here at the radio station, if we want to have a disability insurance, we're lucky if our employer has that as part of our benefits package. But in some cases, in workplace scenarios, disability insurance is covered by WorkSafe BC. And there's a whole different set of rules for people covered by WorkSafe BC, including a lack of ability to sue. Tell us about that whole sector of the workforce.
This is an area I think a lot of people don't know about, and they're quite surprised when they find out about it. Let's just say you and Dwayne are here in the office.
Right.
And he leaves spills water on the floor, doesn't clean it up, doesn't tell anyone about it, and you slip and you fall. You can't sue him for your injuries that you've been caused. That can't happen. But if this has been extended now to car accidents, for example, a pizza delivery driver is driving and gets T-boned by a courier driver who's run a red light, work for totally separate companies,
right,
but they're both in the course of their employment, and they can't sue each other. You can't sue the pizza driver can't sue the courier driver for running the red light.
Because they were on the job?
In the course of employment, yep. So if, though, it happens that the pizza delivery driver is going through a green light and gets hit by someone who's just on their way to watch their son's hockey game,
right,
runs a red light, that person has a choice. The pizza driver has the choice of either going through WCB or going through ICBC for their benefits or their compensation.
Okay. So then the description of it as a two-tier system wasn't too far off the mark.
Not too far off. It's called a worker-worker defense is what lawyers will call it. But it says that two people who are in the course of their employment, so they actually have to be working at the time,
right,
and they get injured, they can't sue each other for those injuries.
What about their employer? Suppose now, using the example of Dwayne, who's a bit of a messy guy anyway, so the fact that he's going to spill on the floors and I'm likely to slip in it it could happen. So I can't sue him, Could I sue the employer? Could I sue the people who run the shop here and claim that their rug brand that they brought in was too slippery when contacted with water?
No, you'd be making a WCB claim for all your injuries at that point.
Oh, is that right?
And that's all you get. That's all you get.
So if you're injured on the job, then your disabilities are covered by whom?
By WCB or WorkSafe.
Okay.
If the responsible party is another worker in the province, any worker, or another employer in the province, any employer, that's all you get is the WCB or WorkSafe benefits. That's all. You have no right to say, well, this isn't fair, I've had a greater loss, I have all these problems. You're stuck.
But what, Joe, what happens if it's a little more than a slip on a soggy carpet if someone is seriously and permanently disabled as a result of a workplace incident and is going to require literally compensation to get them through the rest of their earthly days?
Sterling, my experience with WCB is that if you have someone who's an amputee or quadriplegic or paraplegic, where the injury and disability is obvious,
right,
they're pretty good to deal with.
Okay.
But get someone with a sore back or sore neck or something that isn't as obvious as a spinal cord injury and amputation, and my sense is these people are treated as if they're liars, cheats, and thieves. They just don't believe them, and it's just this isn't, you haven't proven it. So on those more subjective claims, I see the WCB system as operating on a basis of mistrust.
Now,
we don't believe you unless you can prove otherwise.
Are you lawyers able to act on behalf of clients in WBC disputes where they just don't feel the amount is appropriate even slightly?
You can, but the system itself is so tight and it's so restricted. The lawyer's ability to make a big difference is limited. You can't go to court in front of an independent, impartial judge or jury and say, here, you decide this issue. You can't. You have WCB and you have the appeal tribunal, and that's it. You're stuck in that system.
So then, but again, I'm coming to catastrophic injuries. This is where I'm going with, because I'm trying to imagine a young person in the prime of their work fitness, struck down by a workplace injury that really just takes them out of the game for good. Is there provision, at least, Joe, that person is going to be adequately compensated for the rest of their lives?
The compensation is based on the WCB system of benefits. The care costs are usually paid. Again, if you have a catastrophic, obvious injury,
right,
they will pay those. But wage loss benefits, if you get a university student working in the summer who is badly injured on a job and WCB benefits are payable, generally they look at, okay, well, how much have you earned in the last year? And if you're a university student, that's going to be artificially low.
Not a heck of a lot, that's right.
So there's some discretion in that system, but the basis is, okay, what do the numbers show? And the numbers show that your income is very low, and that would tend to mean that long-term, lifelong benefits are going to be low. Not because you wouldn't have graduated from university and done well, but we just have our formulas. There is a discretion there, but it's an uphill battle getting that discretion to be exercised, that the benefits turn into something that's more fair than the basis.
You look like you want to jump in on this one, Derek.
Well, what I was going to say was, I agree with that. I don't think the compensation is adequate.
Right, okay.
Is my belief. And it's the unfortunate part of it is that's the system we're stuck with. If you're hurt at work, you're going through WCB.
Sterling, in England, they have a WCB system, but in England, if a person's injured at work and gets their benefits and has further losses, they can turn around and sue the person who did it. The Americans have the same system, so they have both. You get the benefits, but if you've got a further loss, you can sue. But in Canada, our system is based upon the fact that it's either one or the other. You can't have both. So we have the one system, the WCB system, that most people who deal with are unhappy with.
Let me offer another scenario just for your consideration, gentlemen, please. In terms of disability insurance awards, we've talked about people who are victims of traffic accidents or workplace accidents. What about a victim of crime? An innocent person who is injured by a criminal in the act of something antisocial and wrong. What happens to that? How does that person who's all mashed up by a bad guy, how do they get their lives back, Joe? What happens there?
There's a scheme in BC, Sterling, called the Criminal Injuries Compensation Scheme, and it sets out, it's funded by the government, and it sets out benefits that are payable if someone is the victim of a crime. If you're injured, there's benefits. If you're killed, the family's entitled to benefits.
Are they as restrictive as the WorkSafe BC seems to be?
The benefits are limited. It's not sort of, okay, whatever your loss is, you'll get paid for. So
Right.
there are scheduled benefits. Most people get some benefits short term. The only benefits where there's significant long-term payments are usually death claims where someone's been murdered.
Right.
It's not great, but it's better than nothing.
Well, I was just going to say,
before that scheme, there was nothing.
well, yeah, and again, Derek, we talked about this, about people just, a couple of things have come up in our conversations lately in which you started by saying, most people probably don't even know this. And I would think in that last instance, that's true.
Well, it is true, and the question that's
victims of crime, fortunately, there aren't too many of us, but I don't know that any of us know what happens to those people when they get an injury.
The question is, can't you just sue the person that caused you that injury?
Well, sure, but he's in jail.
But he's in jail.
Not making any money.
And if he has any insurance, it's probably not going to honor a crime because insurance is meant to pay on negligence,
Right.
not crimes. So, you could sue someone and have an intentional tort, we call it. But the reality is, what are you going to see from that at the end of the day?
Sure.
We call it a dry judgment. You're not going to get paid on it.
Okay. But at least there's a package available for victims of
Yes.
crime in BC.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's good to know. And if you didn't know it in advance, you know it now. We're talking disability insurance and all its variations with Joe Murphy and Derek Ma from MurphyBattista LLP. It's The Law Show on CIL 650, and we're back with more after this.
There's more of the show still ahead. This is The Law Show on CIL 650.